Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to my Facebook page. My name is Janis Malillo, Your VA LLC. And of course, I am simulcasting the morning brief through the Wisdom audio app. So I want to thank all of my listeners on Wisdom. Today, I wanted to chat about obstacles and how do we overcome them. I think all of us, of course, in our lives have encountered obstacles. And I think one of the basic things that we do, obviously, sometimes is for every action, there's a reaction. We act accordingly to whatever that situation may be. But what if we know, or we might know what an obstacle may be relating to maybe things that have happened in the past, and specifically with our businesses, when we have glitches. For instance, simulcasting through Zoom, live on Facebook, and on my cell phone, I'm on the Wisdom audio app. Now, a lot of times when I'm doing that, sometimes the glare, depending on how I have the lighting situated, I will sometimes hit the wrong buttons on the Wisdom audio app. So now, of course, I know that that's an obstacle for me and I have to adjust accordingly. Sometimes things are much bigger than we don't anticipate, right? For instance, it could be something as simple as planning out our day. If we know that when we plan out our day, however we do that, and we write it down, I'm a pen to paper person. Of course, I have my digital devices because, there is always an app for that. And of course, my newest one is Todoist, and we'll talk about that in just a second. If I don't specifically write out, for instance, from 5 to 6 p.m., from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m., I am working on my self-care, meaning movement, exercise, whatever you want to call it, reading, journaling, and then, from 6 to 6:30, check an email and stuff real quick. And I can go on and on about how I do that. But the point being, if I don't do that, I often run into obstacles. So now I know that there is that obstacle. And in order for me to take that out of the equation, I know that I have to kind of arrange my day, what I'm doing hour by hour. That works for me. It may not work for you. So what is your obstacle that you have encountered? Maybe it's been with email. Maybe it's been with your favorite new app. Who knows, especially when we're doing so much through digital media, through Facebook, through our Instagram, through our, I just got on TikTok, for instance. There's so many different things, especially when you're going live, that can happen and go wrong. There are glitches in the system. Now, I will tell you, that used to get me very frazzled, and to a certain extent, it still does. But I'm like, okay, a glitch, it happened. I froze up. It's going to happen. I'm just going to continue on with the conversation. So my backup plan, when I come on and do the morning brief, or any live for that matter, with my 3 podcasts, the one I did with my sister this morning, 2 sisters. Obviously, we meet on Zoom, we go live on Facebook, and there's a little bit of a delay when I bring it up on my cell phone. And what she was seeing on her end was that I was frozen, and what I was seeing on my end, she was frozen. So I just continue. I was still on Zoom because I'm at the controls here. So I was still doing the chatting. And I think the raw vulnerability of that is, obviously we want to share what we're passionate about, and we don't let the glitches stop us. We just continue on. And that's with all my 3 podcasts. I will tell you that the Stories That Inspire Us podcast, the very first episode, I hit a huge obstacle. And oh my gosh, a storm came through and the power was knocked out for a few minutes. Now, of course, my amazing guests on the other end, because I do my little pre-podcast chats with them, where we come on, for just a couple minutes, meet each other on Zoom, and we schedule their podcasts. So obviously, I had meeting her beforehand, but on her end, she saw me totally drop off, but she saw that Zoom and the recording through Facebook was still happening. So she went with it, and I so thank her. So the very first episode was stories. And of course, I had her back on for, part 2 so that we can continue the conversation. And it, of course, was an amazing podcast. So I thank her, Jamile. Oh my gosh. So welcome to my listeners on the Wisdom Audio app. I would welcome you to come up and let's have that discussion on when these obstacles happen. What have you done to, maybe obviously you didn't expect it, so something happened, maybe it was, like I'm doing right now, doing the Facebook Live, and something happened with the transformation of that. What did you do? How do you set yourself up for success after something like that does happen? The other day I was on, excuse me, the Wisdom Audio app, and I had a glitch through the Wisdom Audio app. I don't know, it could have been something as simple as, maybe I had the glare and I hit a wrong button or something, which I have been known to do from time to time. But unfortunately, that podcast did not broadcast through the Wisdom Audio app. But of course, I'm also on my Zoom. So if you're doing lives, my suggestion to you is always have a backup plan. So, I'm on Zoom. Of course, I have I'll have the video recording and I'll have the audio recording. And of course, my audio recording is always uploaded to my podcast platform, and eventually the RSS feed catches up with my website. So there are many different ways that I can share what I'm passionate about in my business and how I've overcome these obstacles. For me, it's so important to be there to share, okay, it may have been a man-made obstacles, meaning, of course I've made mistakes along the way. Who hasn't? And the purpose of me sharing with you the mistakes that I've made is perhaps maybe you've made them too, and you weren't sure how you were going to go about fixing that. And maybe something that I said inspired you. And of course, all my listeners that have come up on stage, to chat with me about different topics that I've chatted with on the morning brief, have shared some amazing insight on other things that I hadn't even considered. Always have that connection first. Inspire, connect, and collaborate. For me, that just it's paramount for what I do, and that helps me with obstacles along the way. So welcome to my listeners currently on the Wisdom Audio app. Thank you so much for being here today. And I welcome the opportunity to chat with one of you if you'd like to come up and discuss, maybe a particular thing that it had happened to you as an obstacle, and how did you overcome that? Was it maybe, through your online entrepreneurship, or, working from home? There's always obstacles, of course, when you work from home, whether you have small children, pets, or even a husband who is retired now. Yes, that's me. And you tend to get a lot of interruptions. And that's where the boundaries aspect happen. Of course, being a busy parent who works from home, you don't always have that luxury with small children, and especially if, you're homeschooling. So how do those how can we learn from those obstacles and maybe scoot around it? Or obviously, when those obstacles happen, we have to go through the obstacle, and we learn from that and come up with new ways to maybe divert, redirect, whatever it may be. I will give it just another moment here on wisdom. Well, as some of you may know, excuse me, the other day I came on, of course, talking about the on-demand audio summit that I will be a part of starting on September 13th. And there are 36 or 37 entrepreneurs, including myself, sharing their wisdom and expertise. For instance, some of the categories are sales objections, copyright, mission, wellness, finances. So many different areas of topics covered is just amazing. And what's pretty cool about this online audio summit is that you can listen to it at your leisure. And I think that is just amazing. So maybe if you are working out in the morning, you can listen to one of the entrepreneurs chat about finances, whatever it is, like you have these amazing experts at your fingertips to listen to their wisdom and share their entrepreneurship journey and share what their business is about and how you can achieve or do different things. I think it's going to be amazing. And I just feel so honored and humbled to be included with this group. And again, another shout out to my friend on Facebook, Randy Laxon, and his team at the True North Consulting for putting this audio summit together. And yes, there is an audio summit in the works at some point. That's something that I want to do, to develop and, have some amazing entrepreneurs sometime in 2023, not this year, of course, but that's on my 2023 list. What is on your 2023 list? Welcome, Wisdom. Thank you so much for being here. Isn't it amazing on this Friday? And yes, in the Northeast here, it does feel like fall. Technically, fall does not start until September 22nd, but it is okay and legal, as a matter of fact, that you can start having your pumpkin coffee for now. So just wanted to share that with you. And of course, I had my pumpkin coffee this morning. Absolutely love it. And I have a guest coming up. And I recognize this name, and I can't wait to chat with him again. Good morning, Keith. How are you?
Normal Friday status meeting for my normal job. So just out of that, and I'm okay.
Well, welcome.
I bring my cat to the vet tomorrow. So
oh no.
And she has some kind of lump. We got to figure out what it is.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I sent you an email. I did receive your note, and I sent you an email, and I haven't heard anything back from you, just to let you know.
So you sent it to which email? To my Phantom?
Yeah, whatever email you provided. So check your spam or junk folder, and if for some reason,
yeah, maybe hit that because I didn't see it. So let me go check that.
Yeah. So I'm so excited that you hopped on. So the topic of conversation this morning, like, how do you, when obstacles happen, and unfortunately you have to take your pet to the vets, and that's an obstacle, of course, that you didn't expect. Mm-hmm. How do you handle, number one, how do you handle obstacles? And have you learned anything from that? Like maybe something totally not related to your pets has happened in the past, and you learned such a valuable lesson from that.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of things in life, I have had like big
Mhm.
opportunities, and then some crisis has happened. I think I've talked about. I actually had cancer, and then my wife had cancer.
Oh, Lordy.
Recently. So, surviving cancer was probably the biggest obstacle, and it really how I got into where I am now is because of the cancer. Because when you get like a crucible, you go through it, you make changes. I made changes in my life that caused me to, be able to go to Japan. The only reason I went to Japan is like after I had cancer, I said, well, I shouldn't put restrictions on myself. So I
Hmm.
was able to live in Japan for like 2 years from 2004 to 2006 because I stopped being fearful. Because once you survive something like that, I had a level 3 sarcoma,
Oh my
and
gosh.
I had 3 surgeries and radiation. I was only 27 years old,
Oh,
and I
that's,
didn't
yeah.
smoke. I didn't smoke. I didn't do drugs. I didn't drink. And I'm like, how the heck did this happen? In my head, I had no family history, so I was like, why is this happening? So yeah, that was weird. But yeah, I think that was really a big thing. And then it happened again with my wife. That I was like, wow, I'm really getting hit with stuff. But you just keep on going.
You're right. And I mean, what other choice do we have? And I think we always learn from what we go through, whatever we go through, whatever is thrown our way. And, sometimes those obstacles, it's like they happen and you're just like, really? Like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be very frustrating. And I guess the whole thing behind obstacles that happen, good, bad, indifferent, terrible, harsh, whatever adjectives we want to use, I think we're obviously meant to learn from them. And, what are the blessings that came from you? Um, Unfortunately, going through your stage 3 cancer was that you made the necessary changes, but more importantly, you stopped being fearful. So do you think that if you hadn't gone through cancer, that you may have never, had that opportunity to go to Japan and live there for 2 years?
Yeah, I really think so. When I saw, it really was a different mindset, because when I saw at the job I was at, they had a posting to go to Japan, and I don't think if I had gone through the cancer, I probably would have looked at it and said, well, I can't do that, right? I would have
Mhm.
been putting like a restriction. But the one thing after the cancer, I kind of, I was into mountain biking, and I hadn't really done the downhill.
Mhm.
And then I said, you know what? I'm going to get real heavy into downhill, and I'm going to, take that job. I'm going to go and read poetry at this place in Northampton. And all these things kind of got me to like doing my music, not being scared to play in front of people, not being scared to actually show my music, and get into podcasting, and to, become a producer and say, hey, I could actually produce somebody else. That, you have to believe, like when you're an artist, that you're good enough.
And thank you so much, Keith. And just so that my listeners and viewers on Facebook know, with the Wisdom Audio app, there is like a time limit thing. And I believe on my end, hopefully this is Keith. Yeah, this is him coming back on board. And we'll give it just a second. So once that time is up, it shuts the guest down. So yeah, to continue the conversation, Keith, yeah, like you were really getting into the nitty-gritty of your story.
Yeah, I think it's like a lot of things that I was fearful about, because I was a musician, I was a keyboardist, and I'd be in bands, and I was never the lead singer, right? I was not. I did write the music, so I was the kind of guy. Like, I was actually writing the lyrics, and I was writing like most of the music for the guys in the band, but I didn't sing it. I always like, well, go find a singer that can do it, because I don't think I can do it, right? And then after the cancer, I said, well, you know what? I'm not writing all this stuff. Why don't I sing it? Why do I have to
Oh
give
my
it to somebody
gosh.
else? And it was a matter of confidence, because like being a keyboardist, sometimes you're not, unless you're like Billy Joel or Elton John, a lot of times you're like in the back, right? And you're
Right.
not up front. unless you're one of those keyboard players that is up front. But a lot of times it's not that way. You always have like a lead singer. So a lot of these things, caused me to I almost died. So there's no risk. Just do it. And that's kind of like my whole thing, because it was such a critical thing and I survived it. That I was like, okay, well, what's hard about that? And that was the same thing with like social relationships. I wasn't scared to actually tell somebody if I liked them. And I said, well, if you don't like me, that's fine. It's like, I'm actually not going to hide it. I'm not going to be playing games. I was like more direct, and people were like, well, why are you so direct? Well, because, you don't always have a lot of time, so you might as well be direct.
Well, you know what? I couldn't agree with you more. Like, your cancer was your obstacle, but look at everything that you broke through with that. And I love how you were chatting about, somebody said to you, why are you so direct? Because I am. And I've often said, I consider myself to be very direct. Sometimes that's good. Obviously, sometimes, of course, it's probably maybe not the greatest thing to do, but, I think if you're direct, which I know that you are, with honesty, integrity, not everybody is going to, for instance, like me, and their opinion of me is really none of my business, and I could give a rat's ass, but
yeah, that's right. I mean, I don't think you should have to, everybody can be the way they want to be, and a lot of times we get scared because there's etiquette. I understand etiquette, and I understand social norms that certain people aren't comfortable being that direct. But if you get to know me, I'm going to be kind of direct.
And and that's the beauty of, or the blessings behind what we've gone through in our lives, that there's no time like the present to be direct. Like, if you are passionate about something, like that business maybe that somebody has always wanted to start, obviously I talk a lot about entrepreneurship. Everybody knows I'm a virtual assistant, a podcast host of 3 podcasts. And by the way, National Podcast Day is September 30th. I'm not sure if you knew that. Yeah. And, a lot of people have said to me, well, why aren't you crazy for being the host of 3 podcasts? And, no, people might think I am, and, whatever, that's okay with me. But, each podcast, the bottom line I'm trying to say about podcasting or having 3 podcasts is, a lot of people look at that as an obstacle. I look at it as a chance to inspire, connect, and collaborate. And as a result, of course, each podcast has grown. It's unbelievable how much it has grown. And I think the beauty of that is the raw authenticity that I bring with each podcast. And it's been just such a blessing. So we can look at it as an obstacle. I don't, because I've been able to meet so many amazing people literally all over the world.
I think that's when people look at my music. I released 5 albums this year, and they're like, well, what's too much? I said, well, not really. If you go back in time, James Brown was released every 3 months, back in the day when he was doing stuff. And Prince, when he could, he was doing 3, 4, 5, 6 projects a year.
Yeah.
Whether it's him or somebody else. If you have the content, just do it.
Yeah, just do it. I love that. Just do it. Oh my gosh, that is so amazing. So welcome everyone to the morning brief. Yeah, here he comes again. This is awesome. Keith is so amazing. He shared some great information. Cancer, of course, was his obstacle, but he kicked it. He kicked it to the curb.
There's some people who are they're really perfectionist in my business and music, right? And they'll take a year to do a couple of songs because they're trying to get perfection. And I would tell them the thing you don't know as a producer, right? As a musician, it's a lot of times I've found that when I'm working with people, the song that the artist thinks is the song that's going to make it isn't the song that makes it. It's the song they think isn't going to work, and then you have to convince them to do it. And so This is a big problem with people who spend too much time on one thing when they really should. Sometimes you're not the best judge of your work, your fans are. And if you hold back a bunch of stuff because you don't think it's good, you might lose a lot of opportunities.
And that's the thing, missing out on those opportunities. You didn't miss, again, cancer was your obstacle, but you took that in such a way where you capitalize on those opportunities that came towards you. And I think that's, that's very poignant. It's like very poetic. I'm kind of blown away by that. I think a lot of times we look at things, for instance, I wear, obviously I wear glasses. I used to wear contact lenses. And sometimes we don't see what our real valuable asset is, which is, for me, it's about being creative. Now, I would say that within the last 3 to 5 years, when I first started my online business, that was a journey within of itself. And as each year has gone by, I've kind of recrafted, rebranded, redirected. And if I had waited for that perfect moment, I don't think there are so many perfect moments. It's like, why wait?
Yeah, that's the problem. Because I always talk about how Prince was famous for picking the wrong song, right? Warner Brothers pointed out to him a bunch of times that the song he picked to be the single, and the Warner said, no, do something else, that Warner was always right. That the songs that they picked actually are the ones that did good. And when they did give them songs, they didn't do good. And so, yeah, they used to frustrate Prince because he loved all his music, and I love everything he does. But I understand, what's going to hit and what doesn't hit with an audience. Right? And he was a very experimental artist, so he would do something the song is what if I was your girlfriend? That he really thought that should be bigger than it was. But it was so kind of controversial, and he was using a female voice, and well, that's probably not going to be the biggest song you ever wrote. Because he's kind of pushing it. He's doing all this gender bending stuff on it. He's doing a pitch vocal. He's doing very experimental work. And of course, that's not going to be like Purple Rain or When Doves Cry, because it was pushing it. But he liked to push it. So he was like, well, everybody's going to like that. So, well, maybe not. But yeah, sometimes you just gotta do what you feel is right. But other people do tell you that you might want to pick this song over that song, and then you're sitting there saying, well, this one's the best one. It's like a lot of times the artists were like, wow, I've read so many biographies of so many bands, and the choices they want to make versus what their A&R people made actually was they never thought that was going to work. It's like, well, would that actually work? People like that? It's like, I don't even like that song. And then they end up having to play a song that they don't even like because the fans like it.
Yeah, so, that says something right there for those different obstacles that he encountered. Wow. So what do you think is your next big thing, Keith?
Well, my big thing is to try to break from about 40,000 podcast listeners to hit 100K. That's my big thing, because I got into podcasting, I was only at 2,000 listeners, and now I'm at almost 38,000. And so I know I can hit 40K probably this year. But then when I'm trying to push, it's well, not just push to hit 50, push to hit 100K, because that put me in a different tier, and then I could get to talk to people I really want to talk to. Artists I'm really, really enamored with, Liz Phair and Juliana Hatfield, and some of the independent bands like Wilco or Radiohead, to be able to talk to some of my heroes, that would really be into a tier where they would actually say, wow.
And isn't that amazing? Now, if Keith had not started that, where do you think that he would be? I mean, that's amazing. And here he is, joining in 3, 2, 1.
Goal had been to deal with emerging and independent artists I don't think are getting attention. But being a music fan before I was even a musician, being able to, if I could talk to Mick Fleetwood, if I could talk to like, any of my heroes, like the whole band Wilco or Radiohead, or any of those bands I'm really into, like even like Dave Byrne, Talking Heads. If I had actually talked to them about like their days at like CBGBs and that whole scene, that's a big thing for me, because I always liked the kind of CBGB environment where you could have a band like the Talking Heads and the Ramones and Blondie all in the same place. They're all doing different things.
Yeah.
And I thought that was amazing. As a musician, like the fact that you could have all those type of people, Patti Smith, like they were all in the same scene. And that to me is just like, people need to really think about that.
Right. I'm from that era, of course. And, you mentioned some very familiar names and, brings me back, and that's some good music for sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm always trying to, when I work with younger people and they're comparing themselves to somebody that's like in their time. And then I say, well, why don't you kind of look at this time, right? Just to kind of stretch yourself out. So I always point out, like with like a band like Parliament Funkadelic, it's amazing musicians, right? Like a band like Steely Dan, like unbelievable like composition capability. So you always go back to like the Beatles. It's like, if you want to be a songwriter, you gotta look at all the Beatles songs. If you want to know how to write a song, you gotta look at all the Motown songs, right? To kind of understand structure. And you could look at what's happening today and say, yeah, that's what's happening today. But if you want to really understand, even go back to like Nat King Cole and Frank Sinatra and the way they used to sing. And I always like to point out like the best of every genre, and then try to, what can you learn from the way Frank Sinatra belts this out, right? Or the way Nat King Cole, the way he used to, express himself. Those things are very important if you're a musician, even if that's not your genre, to kind of look at it,
So there is basically a science, there is a method to learn how to do that, which obviously you have achieved in such a way that you're, able to do what it is that you do with music, podcasting, producing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's like a matter of like, I've always been very expansive, and really because my father had an amazing record collection. He had Brubeck and Johnny Cash. At the same time, he had Stevie Wonder. He had all these chess records with original James Brown stuff, all the Motown, all the Stax. And then, bands like Led Zeppelin and The Who. And I'm like, wow, why would you like that? I said, well, he liked it. And so he was all over the map. And I'm like, that was actually really good for me, because I was like, then I wasn't like just stuck in a lane. I knew other relatives that all they liked was Johnny Cash or Waylon Jennings. That's it, because they were born in Morgantown, West Virginia. I was like, well, I'm only going to be into that outlaw country. And I like outlaw country. It's cool, but it narrows. That's the only thing you're going to like.
Yeah. And, it makes me think of oh my God, it was in the 80s, where the producer, I think it was Quincy Jones, gathered all the musicians and talented artists, and they sang "We Are the World."
Yeah.
Oh my God, I come across that video like all the time, and I just stop, and I, probably have listened to that hundreds of times by now.
Everybody was touching so many different genres that sometimes people are so stuck in that lane. They're like, well, I can't work with this person.
Right.
He had to do a lot of work to get people to be in the same room, because of that.
Yeah. I mean, that was, I think about all that, like, my gosh, like, how did he put all that together? And thank God that he did. And, I'm sure that he may have looked at that like, okay, this is a monumental task. It could be an obstacle, but he obviously did not let that, stop him. And, obviously for such an amazing cause back then.
Well, he was such a good producer that people came and like respected him as a producer. So he was kind of saying, hey, he's kind of shaming him. Say, it is the cause, lower your ego and just do it.
Yeah. Sometimes we have to do that, right? And, and thank you, Keith, so much for coming up. Sometimes we do have to lose that ego. And here he comes again. Here we go.
When I think as an artist, and even in my life as a programmer, what we always do is that you got to admit what you don't know how to do, right? And
Right.
what you're not good at. And it's like every time when you're an artist, like you either keep on doing the same thing you've been doing, or you try to jump into something different. Like, so if I want to go and say, you know what, I want to try to do a bebop album, which means I got to go back and actually get really heavy into bebop jazz, which is very specific type of jazz. And I might not be that great at it. And it's actually got to work at it really hard if I wanted to get in that frame of mind. And it's a lot harder to do something that, like, I'm not the best at that. So if I try to get in there, I'm probably going to make a lot of errors. I'm not going to be the best. I could just stay in my lane. But if I really want to try it, then I'm going to go do it.
Right. And you know what, you just described something that I'm thinking, obviously, of what I handed off to my VA the other day. Yes, I have a VA, even though I'm a VA. But for a very specific reason. I've often talked about, you know, a big obstacle from me, of course, is preparing funnels. I know what the purpose of a funnel is. I know how it works. I just don't know how to put it together, the technical side of it. But, you know, I found this amazing person who's, you know, of course, created everything, you know, did the graphics, and I just handed off everything to her. And, you know, very shortly, you know, she'll probably get back to me the next day or so. I will have my first official funnel, which is amazing. And I'm talking about in this series of mini videos, I'm talking about podcasting, because it's National Podcast Day coming up on September 30th. But back to really the conversation at hand, you know, that's eventually something I know I want to learn how to do. That's a big obstacle for me right now, but I did not let that obstacle stop me. I did what I had to do, and I had to let go of my ego and hand it off for somebody else to create it for me. So, yeah. So
it's always hard. I mean,
yeah.
I went from doing audio podcasting into video, and it required me to kind of step up my game. I had to get better mics. I had to get a mixer. I had to understand in video how to behave differently than on an audio podcast. You have to be kind of present about how you look and what you're doing. And so it's a different type of thing. And you got to be able to, maybe I'll include people's YouTube videos. Maybe I'll include their music videos, you know, MP3s and PowerPoints and stuff. So it becomes a totally different type of thing.
Right.
And it's like for years, I mean, I spent 2016, only in 2020 did I switch to video. And I still do audio like here. And it was a big thing because there was a whole nother level of confidence. It's like, well, because I've been a musician and I can play in front of people, I said, well, that's not a big deal. I can do that, but it's different. Being a podcaster from like doing a song.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, I don't know anything about the music industry, nor do you want me trying out, you know, to sing in any of your music things. But, you know, for me, my obstacle was the fear. And I'm like, you know what, this is getting ridiculous. Like, I'm basically on every morning with my sister doing the Two Sisters podcast. We go live on the Facebook page, on the Two Sisters Facebook page. Now it's time for me to break out on my own and just do it. And I am so excited that I did that because, again, once I stayed consistent with it. Now, mind you, the past 2 to 3 weeks with traveling and everything going on, I haven't been as consistent, but I'm still stepping up to the plate, so to speak, and I'm showing up for myself, but more importantly, to share inspiration, to connect and to collaborate. And that's one of the reasons too why I'm so excited. I haven't even told my business coach yet that I finally got my first lead magnet officially done. So that says something right there, right?
A big win, it's like I'll jump on the next time. Wait a second, let's drop off again. Let me come back on.
Okay. I see a lot of questions coming in and I am not sure how to get to them. So please just bear with me because I don't want to hit any buttons on wisdom that I'm not supposed to hit. Because hey, Keith.
So it would be nice if they made the response, like I've been on some other apps that have like a chat that's really easy to respond to while you're talking, because it's kind of built in.
Right.
That means they would actually need to put the chat icon on the screen right here.
Right.
And then be able to actually go into it without thinking you're gonna bomb out. But the other thing I'm trying to do is that now COVID is starting to lessen. There's an idea that I'm trying to pitch to like advertisers who I have sponsors to say, hey, what if we took the podcast on the road? We interview a lot of bands from all over the world.
Mhm.
So what if we were able to like go to Iceland, go to Australia, go to the UK, go to South Africa, go to Japan, and actually interview the bands there, right? And actually go to a concert, show their concert, interview them before the concert. That's my pitch, right? So I pitched to a bunch of advertisers to say, to bring this up to a higher level, that's what we do. We'd actually go on the road, and then do the podcast where the bands are.
Oh, wow.
And then that would be the whole point. And then we think we can hit a wider audience if people be interested in being able to see the band actually perform. The idea would be every episode you talk to the band and you get to see them actually play, so it would be the whole kind of process that you get to see that like A to Z.
Yeah. Wow. That sounds really exciting and adventurous. And, think of all those connections and collaborations that will result from that. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, well, I mean, my whole thing with that is like, that would be going to this being like my 100% job. If I got the right kind of funding, that I could do that and drop my IT job and actually do that, because it would be like a full career level thing. So that's the pitch, is like, for me to do that, you've got to support me to the point where I could actually do it without doing the day job.
Yeah.
So that's the pitch, and we'll see if I can get that done in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
To do it. But
That's a great goal to, and my sister and I were talking about goals this morning, and, sometimes our to-do list really should be a novel, but like look at the non-negotiables of your list and create a different list, like maybe a big goal that you're working toward that you just described, you break it down, even further. And so that it doesn't seem like that it's not like unattainable. It is. It's just, taking it in different steps. And
with the right advertiser, if you get like a big, not to push them out there, if you get like an alcohol company, or you get like a company that's got like big pockets, the Pepsis of the world and stuff like that, it's theoretically possible you could do it, because they give you enough cash to do it. It's just, you can talk to some people, it's how you pitch it. If you pitch it to the right companies and they understand, it's like, oh, the music fans that like, because this wasn't just the music, the actors, producers, musicians, poets, spoken word poets, any kind of creative. So it's not just musicians. So you could reach, you can talk to actors too. So that'd be a whole different thing.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And the other thing that I did this week that's been an obstacle for me is going on TikTok.
TikTok's hard.
Yeah. But my business coach did a masterclass yesterday on TikTok, and I'm like, well, what do I have to lose? And, as it was a great masterclass, by the way. And I don't know why I chose this. Well, I kind of know why I chose this name. So as she was on explaining everything, I chose the name @Podcast Diva. And so, I love the name Diva. I don't know, there's a personal connection for me with that. And it's just the feeling of not being a diva, as we may know, like some people in the big, in the music industry, of course, there's some divas out there, but diva to me means something totally different.
Yeah, Beyonce or Madonna, Aretha Franklin, people real big names here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if any of my listeners are on TikTok, I'm like I said, I'm just new to it, at Podcast Diva. I will be on there at some point today. I have 4 things up there right now. And of course, my other newest adventure was Pinterest. Keith, thank you so much for coming up. This is the morning brief. I am so excited to welcome everybody, all my listeners. I see some very familiar names. So thank you so much for being here. And I wanted to extend the opportunity for one more guest to come up and let's have that conversation. Had an amazing conversation with Keith as always. And Keith, don't forget to check your email, check your spam or junk folder. Here he comes again.
I do have a TikTok and I have a Pinterest. And my Pinterest I have not put a lot of attention into. It's kind of been like I put more attention to my Twitter, my Twitch, my Facebook, and my YouTube, just because they seem to actually give me results.
Mm-hmm.
But the Pinterest and the TikTok, it's like, because my daughter, she's 22, right? And she's always telling me, like, watch the TikToks I watch and see how that works. It's like what you're doing is not gonna kick, because what you're doing is you're trying to do the same thing you're doing on these other platforms,
Mm-hmm.
and you actually have to do a TikTok version of what you're doing. And,
right, and that was hard.
I said, yeah, I guess that's it. I got to figure out how to do that.
That was a hard concept for me. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to fool around with this. And Pinterest, I am pleasantly surprised from all the research that I did with, for virtual assisting, but also for podcasting. I've had the Pinterest account for probably a year, but really started hitting Pinterest heavy on July 17th. And now I have over 10,000 views. I don't so much as, I don't focus on the followers. I mean, of course, followers are important, but for me, it's about, if somebody sees it and they're like, wow, this looks pretty cool. And of course, with being, I'm on this on-demand audio summit next week with 37 other entrepreneurs. And of course, I've been promoting that there. By the way, it's free, which is pretty cool. I kind of like free whenever I can get free. Who doesn't, right? But, it's about, to me, it's about obviously the inspiration, connection, collaboration, but really adding value. And I am on Twitter as well. I'm getting a little bit better with that, but it'll come. The point is, these little things have come up, obstacles pop in, and I block through. I shouldn't say I block through it. I go through it, and put the pedal to the metal. And my Pinterest account is doing fantastic. Now I'm on TikTok, and who knows what.
Well, my Twitter started doing really well because one of the distributors I use for my video podcast is actually able to put my full podcast on Twitter live. So when I go live on my YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter, the full podcast is available immediately live on Twitter.
Well,
Which that I never had before, but because of my distributor had the ability to do that. And then even after it's done, the hyperlink will actually show, if I do a half-hour episode, you can actually watch that half hour on Twitter.
Yeah, and Twitter, by the way, has some really new cool features, the audio feature through that. And I am familiar with StreamYard and Restream, where you can, for instance,
I'm using like StreamYard and
yeah.
there.
So, these are, you're hitting different social medias at the same time, which is pretty cool. For now, I'm just going to stick with the, I'm on my Zoom, of course, on my TrulyYourVA Facebook page, and of course, broadcasting on Wisdom as well. And for now, that's working out. That's something that I definitely want to try at some point. I don't really consider that an obstacle. I consider it an addition. But obviously with the audio summit coming up, which I'm really excited about, and I did put on my podcast website a blog the other day with the information on how people can register for that. Yeah.
Well, I created a website for the Ghost, and on there I have a blog page. And every time I have a podcast, I have a blog article with the bio and the photo and all the hyperlinks for whoever I'm interviewing.
Yeah.
And then in addition, that's kind of like a single source for everybody to get to anything PEG or Family Electric Ghost. But what's cool, also before that, I've been on Anchor FM, and they take my podcast and distribute it on like 11 platforms simultaneously, audio. So I've been on them for many years, and they also put my Spotify video podcast out.
Yeah.
So I've got like between StreamYard and Anchor and here, I'm like hitting a lot of different things simultaneously. That's kind of cool. I think that's been my strategy.
That's pretty cool. Thank you so much for coming up. I want to welcome everyone again. And if someone else would like to come up, I would invite you to come up to the stage and let's have that conversation. Yeah, there's so many amazing avenues to share what you are passionate about and different ways to get your information out there. I will tell everyone, and I believe I have in the past, all of my podcasts are hosted through Podpage. And I love Podpage, and yes, I am an affiliate of it, and I do get a small affiliate percentage if like somebody joins under my link. What I love about it, number one, it's very user friendly. So somebody who does not have a lot of tech skills can easily maneuver through the back office. It of course has a storefront. Mine on my TrulyYourVA is called Tyva fee schedule or something like that. The total name escapes me, but if you go to my website, of course, underneath my profile, there's a link for that. You can see that, and you can blog. I mean, there's just so many different things that you can do. And you can also post to, it will automatically post to you for you to your Facebook page, your Twitter account, and one other one. And I disconnected the Facebook page one because for whatever reason that there's a little bit of a glitch. If I'm, for instance, on the TrulyYourVA, it posts to the Two Sisters Facebook page. So I just disabled that aspect of it, which really isn't a problem, but absolutely love it that I'm able to easily manage 3 podcasts with these amazing pod page websites, and it's just really easy, and I like ease and simplicity. So you are listening to the Morning Brief with Janis. I'm so excited to be here with you today and welcome my many listeners on. I would also welcome the opportunity for another guest to come up. Would like to invite you. Wow, I see some great familiar names here. Hey, Daryl. Hey, everyone. Oh my gosh, thank you all so much for being here. I'm going to give it just another second for somebody else to come up on stage and share your wisdom along with me. How have you dealt with obstacles? We heard Keith's amazing story on how he really kicked cancer's butt, and that led him to make some amazing changes in his life, which led him to different things. And he's just building upon that, which I think is absolutely amazing. So, my gosh, what is everybody doing this weekend? And by the way, I think I said this at the beginning of it, I'm in the Northeast, New England, and woke up this morning, it was 57 degrees. And I said, yes, I am having a pumpkin coffee. So on that note, thank you all so much for being here today. Amazing conversation with Keith. Remember that if you have a story to share, it's that important to share it. My name is Janis, the host of the Morning Brief, and go to my website below. You can send me a contact form through there. You can also leave me a voice message. Let's have that conversation. Maybe you have a big project coming up and you just need to bounce your ideas off of someone. Don't hesitate to reach out. Bye for now. Thank you. Thank you to all my amazing listeners. Hope you have a great weekend. I will be on tomorrow. Not sure exactly when. Bye for now. Hey, Facebook, thank you so much for being here today. Amazing conversation with Keith. And as you know, it's about inspiring connection and collaborate. How are you going to overcome those obstacles? We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.